pretty quickly. And let me start sharing my screen. Okay, so the town hall for today is about matrix collection and processing in Fluent Bit. We got many comments from people that they were not aware that you can do matrix processing and collection with Fluent Bit. So the intention of this session is to showcase the capabilities, some of the capabilities that we have, make some kind of high-level intro to it. Before to get started, same as we did in the first town hall, we are asking the audience to, in just less than 4 minutes, maybe 2 minutes, just fill out pretty quickly a document that they're going to share right now in the chat, which will have some special questions that will be really useful for us from a community perspective. So if you give me 1 second, I'm going to share this here in the chat. Or maybe if you can help me out with that, Austin, I'm sharing on our internal chat.
Yep, I got it.
Awesome, thank you. Okay, I think I could post it to also the chat, so there we go. So the first question that we have is that, did you know that Fluentbit can be used for matrix collection and processing? Yes, no, and if yes, what has been important for you? The second one, what are your matrix needs? All this feedback is really important for us to know what to prioritize in the project, because as I always said, everything that we have here in FluentBit is thanks to the community. So I will start the counter here, just 3 minutes to fill out this. In any case, if you want to add any extra comment at the end, or you want to register your own question, please add it at the end of the document. So I'm going to start reading some of the comments. Yeah, so the lack of capabilities by using Lua script to modify the metrics. Yes, that's something that we have in our to-do list. We collect not exported, process metrics using Fluentbit. Yes, for Silva, it was talking about not exported. For example, we want to get rid of not exported metrics and just, sorry, not exported from Prometheus and use the Fluentbit version. What we usually do is like, since there are could be hundreds of collectors from that project, we would like to know which one is the most important for you, and if some one of them is missing, please go ahead and just log a GitHub issue. Okay. So 1 more minute. Documentation improvements, yes. +1 to that one. Maybe I'm going to give an extra minute so people can just finish up to write in the information here. Okay, we're going to continue here. Thank you so much for people who provided some feedback. And as a reminder, always FluentBit is part of the FluentD project, which is a graduated status with the CNCF, the Cloud Native Computer Foundation. And one of our goals is to always be a vendor neutral project. And here we have a landscape of other projects around the ecosystem where we are too. The Fluent ecosystem aims to integrate with others. And that's why when we talk about metrics, it's not like FluentBit trying to impose, for example, a specific protocol for metrics. Actually, we support Prometheus, OpenTelemetry, and well, the old one, OpenMetrics, which has been integrated in Prometheus protocol. And same as we do collection from logs, metrics, we do also do it for traces. And all the focus today will be pretty much on metrics. For people who want to at the end of the session take a look at the source code that I'm showing case today, please scan this QR code or just go to the Fluent organization. There's a new repo that is called Fluent Bit Town Hall, where you will be able to check and see all the examples that we're running here. And if there's any issue with example, please open an issue and we will be happy to assist you in there. Okay, today we are focusing on metrics with Fluent Bit, everything around collection and processing. I know that most of you might be a user of Fluent Bit, but I always assume there's people who don't know about the project, so we try to do some quick intro. And as part of the historical context, when Fluent Bit was created, one of the first plugins were not to ship logs. Actually, they were to collect metrics from the Linux system at that time, for embedded Linux system. And those two plugins were for CPU and memory. And those plugins still exist today for Linux. But the difference is like they ship the metrics as logs, right? So for example, the CPU plugin, what it does, it reads the profile system, it checks all the CPU cycles for every single core and generate metrics. But those metrics are based in percentage. They don't create, it does not create like a time series or a snapshot of the data. Actually, it reads the data, it reads after 1 second and calculate which percentage has been used for that CPU. So the CPU can run X amount of cycles. So we just calculate how many cycles we're running within the time of window that we define it in the configuration or by default. And this is done globally for the whole CPU perspective, but also you can get granular information per core. And for memory, yeah, it's pretty simple that we read all the memory bytes in registers, total, used, free, and so on, same as for the swap. Now, these plugins are and they're for historical context, but we know that many people is using it. Actually, if you want to know how much CPU your system is running and you want to do it with Fluent Bit instead of top, well, I would use top, right, because it's easy to type, but you can just do Fluent Bit -I CPU std out and you will get the information. Many years ago, not many years, like 2 years ago, we get a native metric support. And what this means, when we have logs, they have a structure, but they don't have a schema, right? And they're very flexible. So whatever the ingestion happens, like an input plugin or other from a remote endpoint ingest, you will get as a key value pairs, and you can have nested labels. Now for metrics, the concept is similar, but we have a fixed schema because there are special fields that needs to be there, like timestamp, the name for the metric, the type of metric, like gauge, counter, histogram, the value associated to that metric, and some description and maybe labels which are very helpful for dimensions, right? So metrics landed like 2 years ago, and we have been growing partly all the ecosystem for metric support in Fluent Bit, which is not the first step, of course, is an internal schema or internal representation, but which is more important is about how I said before, how do I integrate with other metrics ecosystem? I'm able to decode and encode back and forth with the other protocols schemas. For example, also we have this capability that I don't think we have found this in other projects, but if you have logs that contain a metric, we can ship that log metric value as a native metric. And what is the biggest value in here? For example, sometimes you want to count the number of records, so you don't want to send thousands of records to the database to count them all. Actually, what you can do is to apply our log2metrics processor and just say, hey, create a counter for all the messages that are being generated and just ship that value instead of sending all the 1,000 messages. Now, shipping metrics as logs exists in many systems. There are many services that, even for example, in Nginx, that ships certain values, certain counters as logs. So convert logs to metrics is a very flexible processor and filter that allows you to define which specific components can be converted to which one as a metric. And I have some examples for that. Let me see if it's the next one. Okay. So I'm going to now jump into a hands-on mode. I'm going to, let me see if I can stop sharing here and open my editor. Oh, what you're seeing here is this is just the repository that I just published on GitHub. So we're going to navigate first in what we call the processor called log2matrix. I'm going to explain what we have here. We have a pipeline that have registered the inputs and the outputs. In the input side, I have a plugin that is called dummy. Dummy just generate a dummy message. Whatever you want, it will generate it. And it's called, and the value, it has two, the message itself is like a JSON and it has two values, two key values. One of them is temperature and the other is location. And what happens after, I commented this out because I'm going to explain it right now, is like this information that is shipped as a log it won't be sent to the Prometheus exporter plugin, which I'm loading because I would like to expose this as a metric, but nothing will happen because this is shipping a log and this is just for metrics. But our plugin called stdout will be able to process that and print the information on the screen. So I'm going to open my terminal. Now let me move this to the other window. Oops. Okay, I'm here in the log2matrix sample. So I have the same configuration that I'm loading. So I'm going to run this. And if the text is too small, please let me know so I can make it bigger. So I don't know how it's seen on your own site. So here I'm running this example, and as you can see, Fluent Bit is generating a log message, right, with the value that we defined, the timestamp and the value. But as we are doing in this example, we want to ship them as metrics. So we are going to convert from log to matrix. And what we're going to do is to load a processor, which can run as a filter too, but we're going to do as a processor, which is called a log to matrix. And we're going to do this. The processor is applied to the content that is being generated by here. So for logs, I'm going to load log to matrix, and we're going to focus on the value field temperature, which is this one. Okay, we're going to set a metric name, current temperature, a metric mode, because metrics can be in different type histograms. We support histograms, counters, and gauges. Gauge, a short description, and a tag. Okay, and what would happen right now is that this information is going to flow through the pipeline. So the input generates a log, and this later gets converted to a metric. Let's see what happens when we run this. The config has been updated. And now you will see that now we don't have a log, we have a metric. But notice that also we expose a Prometheus exporter endpoint inside Fluent Bit with the port available that is 2024. So while we run this is stdout. In our terminal, we can do curl 2024 metrics. And you will see that if I run this, I will get the same value that I'm getting on this side, right? But this is a Prometheus text format. So FluentBit is sending the metrics to stdout, but also exposing this information in case you have Prometheus who want to scrape or pull this information back. And this is how you can convert from log to metrics. And I was testing this also, which is really important, have the ability to add a label to your metrics. Labels allow us to have dimensions, right? So, but labels, usually you want to use the same content that you have from the log to define certain labels. In this case, I'm adding a label in the key, which is called location, and I'm adding the value of location by using a a record accessor pattern. So this means the value of location, which should be Costa Rica. Now, if I save this and run it again, the label should be generated. And as you can see here, the label has been generated. And if I query again the Prometheus endpoint, you will see that also the new dimension is there. So by knowing how your log file is composed, the structure that it has, you can do whatever you want with these metrics. You can count of them, you can generate any type of metric or histograms for more complex use cases. And one of the goals of this conversion is to pretty much sometimes reduce the amount of data that you are ingesting in your backends. There are people who say send all the logs here, but also generate a metric for the logs that I just collected, and it will work just fine. Okay, so this is log2 metrics. And the next example that we have today is actually this should be the first one, not the second one, is how do we collect CPU samples and memory from the system and we ship them as logs. If we go to metrics as logs example, you see that now the CPU samples will be start collecting, but also the memory information. Okay, let me stop here, or maybe let's do something like format JSON lines, and let me install JQ. Okay, so because I'm gonna do this now. So I'm piping the output to JQ, and you will see that just to make sure that you can read information better, the CPU samples are calculated for CPU, which describe user in user mode, in system mode, and then we have them per core. CPU 0 for the 3 of them, CPU 1 for 3 of them, and so on. Also in the middle, we are also collecting the metrics, but we are collecting here metrics, native metrics from the system, which is just text as logs. Okay, this is just for historical context. Now, other feature that we have, and this comes from one of the questions from one of the person here in the audience, is that we always have this need to collect metric. The need to have capabilities to collect metrics from the host, right? And maybe of you will be familiar with Prometheus Node Exporter, which is a project from Prometheus that collect different metrics from the system, from CPU, disk, swap, and they have a bunch of collectors. And many years ago, members of our community said, hey, I'm running Node Exporter, but also I'm running Fluent Bit. Would it be possible to have Fluent Bit to mimic or copy what Node Exporter is doing? And actually, that's what we did. We copy paste all the logic of Node Exporter inside Fluent Bit, so you don't need to manage two agents. You can use just one. And to demonstrate how this works, first of all, I'm going to run it locally. So I'm going to run Fluent Bit from the command line. Let me see. I'm going to choose one input that is called Node Exporter Metrics, and I'm going to send all this information to the standard output. Systemd is not supported. Okay, so after a few seconds, you will see that all these metrics are being collected. All these are collected by its proper system. Give me 1 second to just shoot and close all these applications that I have here. Are being a bit noisy. Okay, sorry about that. Okay, so Node Exporter here, is printing all the stuff. It's mimicking everything that Node Exporter does, our own plugin. Okay? And this is not just useful if you have information in standard output. Actually, what is more interesting, if we make a Prometheus scrape the information that we generate from Fluent Bit, and then we have Grafana, creating some dashboards from it. Um, if you go to the town hall example directory, and then you go to the not exported dashboard here, we have a Docker Compose file that what basically does is spawns Fluent Bit, Prometheus, and Grafana all together. Right? For simplicity, I already started running this on my system. I hope that I didn't kill it. Yeah, here's running. So it's pretty much running from my system and collecting metrics, right? So, oh, I stopped this a while ago. So you will see that how the information is being collected, the status, what we're doing, and some memory information. So what we're doing here is running our own node exporter inside FluentBit, having Prometheus scraping that information, and then Grafana creating the same dashboards. Now, when you are missing some information here from the dashboard, it means that we didn't implement or we did not enable a certain collector from node exported metrics, right? And if you go to our documentation, you will see a bunch of options and collectors available. Okay, if some of them is missing or is not there or there's any issue, please open a GitHub issue and ping us on Slack in the community, and we will be happy to implement. Everything that we're adding right now to this specific collector, to a specific plugin, is just based on community feedback. Okay, and other capabilities that we have in FluentBit is the ability to, from a metrics perspective, is to scrape metrics. Same as Prometheus, the service, scrape metrics from remote endpoints, we can do the same with FluentBit. And we have an example that is called Prometheus Scrape. And as a helper, what I'm going to do, I'm going to start a program in Go. It's a very simple program that what it does is to expose an endpoint where it publish a metric, right? So you will find this in the repository. I think I didn't commit this yet. I did like a few hours ago. Okay, I think it's not there, but it will be there after this call. So we can go run here. And the program is running. And this is the endpoint. I'm going to switch here. Actually, if you do a curl over that endpoint, you will get all the metrics that are being exposed. This is with curl. But in our ideal case, we want to use Fluent Bit to do that scraping. If you go to Prometheus Scrape to the Fluent Bit configuration, we will have this, an input plugin that is called Prometheus Scrape, the endpoint where it needs to collect the data from, the port, the path where these metrics are exposed. And once we scrape these metrics, they are collected, we're going to print them out to standard output and expose them again through a new port. This is just to showcase the capabilities, but I don't think that you're going to would like to expose something that you just scrape it unless you do some processing. Okay, so let's go back here with FluentBit. And now FluentBit will start scraping the metrics from here every second. That's why they are refreshing every single second. But you know what is interesting here is like from all these metrics that comes from the Golang language that exposing memory stats, I think the file descriptors, virtual memory, blah, blah, blah. Actually, in our code, I'm going to stop here for a second. We just exposed this, just a single metric that is called random temperature Celsius, right? That's why we expose it, but we get a bunch of metrics. Now, the capabilities that we have also is the ability to select which metrics we want to persist in our pipeline and discard the others. So we can do mixes of include or exclude. So I'm going to show you how to process this. Very simple. So in the same example, I'm going to enable one processor for metrics that is called metric selector. And the only thing that we'll do is to just include the metric that is called random temperature Celsius. This is a regular expression pattern, so you can compose the pattern as you want and it will respect. And when this in place, okay, let me see the before and the after. I'm going to run again the plugin. If we do a curl, you will see that all these metrics are there. And we just care about this one. Okay. And now if you do it with Fluent Bit, we will get the same information that we're doing with curl, all the bunch of metrics. But what we really care about is that special metric. So we are going to uncomment this here. I'm going to restart Fluent Bit. And now you will see that just the specific metric that you want is being exposed. And this is also being exposed inside Fluent Bit on port 2024. So maybe I can open here another pane here. And here I can do HTTP 2024. So this comes from Fluent Bit, from the one that is running here. So you can see how Fluent Bit is updating also the same information that we have in standard output, but in our Prometheus endpoint. Okay, here we try to showcase different type of capabilities, right? And some of them are to cover different use cases. One of them is convert logs to metrics. The other is to scrape metrics from remote endpoints and expose them through Prometheus Exporter. But actually, we have other capabilities in place. Like, for example, from input sources, we refer to all the plugins that are able to deal with native metrics. Prometheus Scrape is the one that we just demonstrate. Prometheus Remote Write, it mimics a Prometheus server. So if you have something standing Prometheus Remote Write, you can do it with Fluent Bit. OpenTelemetry is fully supported, so if you send metrics through OpenOTLP, you will get it. We will have one input plugin in Fluent Bit that is called Fluent Bit Metrics that basically generate the Fluent Bit internal metrics into the pipeline. Process exported metrics. In Linux, it runs on Linux. It extracts all the metrics from the processes running on that system. Not exported metrics. Yeah, we just showcase this to collect the operating system, the host metrics. The other that is not well known but is really good is Nginx metrics. And Nginx metric, what it does, Nginx has a plugin in the open source edition and I think the commercial edition that expose certain metrics, right? But they're not native metrics. So what you can do with Nginx metrics is to go and pull those metrics from Nginx and do whatever you want with them. Filter them, process the labels, or expose them or send them out to a different place. Forward is a Fluent protocol. So if you collect metrics and you want to send them over forward to another agent, to FluentD or Fluent Bit, yeah, it will work. And log to metrics for what we just showcased. In processor for metrics, we have the labels processor that allows you to add labels to the metrics or just modify them in place. And metric selector is the one that we just showcased where we collect all the metrics from a Golang application, but we just instruct the agent to just choose one specific one that we care about. And from the, oops, sorry, this is from old content. And for destinations, as we just show, we can expose this information as Prometheus Exporter. You can send this information out with Prometheus Remote Write. We can send them through OTLP to an OpenTelemetry endpoint. Also, for special services like Splunk and InfluxDB, we can auto-convert all these metrics to the specific formats, to those specific database services, and forward in the OPO2, that means that, hey, we can receive metrics, but also send metrics in a different protocol. So this is what we wanted to showcase today in this town hall, a very high-level overview of metric capabilities. And now I would like to invest some minutes with people in the audience to share your thoughts, or if you have questions, I will be happy to answer. I hope that also you can add your questions to the main document that I'm tapping again on the chat, right? Add your question, even if you do it live, please add it there so we can have track of what was not clear or what is missing. I don't know if we can, Austin, do you know if people can speak or they're forcibly mute?
Yeah, everyone should be able to talk. Some people will probably just throw things in the chat though.
The traditional monitoring, such as Zabbix, is that on the target at all or not?
Oh, sorry, I didn't get the question.
Yeah,
Can you repeat?
Zabbix and Nagios, like the traditional monitoring stacks, are they targets at all for this?
We have not get the requirement yet from the community. I think it's the first time that at least I hear about it. But if there's demand for that, yeah, we will implement it. We always implement the stuff based on demand. So if we have just one person asking for something, it's different than 10, 5, or when you open the GitHub issue, we see people that are thumbs up on this. It's like, oh, people need it. So that helps us to prioritize our development efforts.
Makes sense.
I just want to know the Zabbix use case. Are we talking about the Zabbix agent which is running inside forwarding metrics to FluentBit instead of the Zabbix server? Is that what we are talking about?
Zabbix.
Yeah, for because I was just curious because we want to support Zabbix, but then Zabbix just sends it directly to its server, whereas I think the agent. So I'm not sure if the that'll be the detailed use case will be nice. Even I'm curious on what the ask here from FluentBit. And if it can intercept the agent, where the agent can directly send it through FluentBit, as if FluentBit is like a Zabbix server, that does give a lot more power in filter, enrich, and even we can send it to a different destination like Prometheus instead of sending it to Zabbix. Yeah, that I do see it as a pipeline use case, definitely, as an input plugin to ingest Zabbix metrics. So input plugin to ingest Zabbix metrics is what I'm thinking, but I don't know. I don't know who asked the original question and what.
The same for us. We just have Zabbix. We do have Prometheus as well, but Zabbix is more heavily supported in our shop. But that's all.
Okay. Okay, yeah, that would be really interesting. So actually what you're suggesting that we should have a Zabbix input plugin, same as Remote Write and the others, so we can get the stuff in the pipeline for processing.
Yeah, in our experience, right, we totally got rid of Zabbix because of the ability, because of other reasons. But if the agent can be deployed and it can send it to FlameBit, then that gives us a lot more control to transform and use Prometheus on the backend instead of relying on Zabbix server. And we can just use Zabbix for fleet management and config, right?
Yeah, I get it. Yeah, really interesting. That's why I love about these calls, because we get all this feedback that, hey, you are the users. You use Fluent more than us. So really good. Yeah, I just took a note that I just added at the document at the end. I just added one line, implement Zabbix. So if you are listening here, you want to add something, please go ahead and add it. Okay, Michael Jones, is metric data usually or always a number digits? The metric value, yes, is always a numeric value. Internally, everything is handled as a float or a double digit, but yeah, everything else like the name, description, yes, they are normal strings, and we have our own internal structures to handle that. Okay, one more. The log2 matrix is a nice addition. We not export the matrix plus log2 matrix. We can replace several processes and use a single one. Thank you. Awesome. Great. Yeah. Please let us know how that goes. Really interesting to learn not just that you were able to accomplish, but also how hard or how easy it was to use it. But yeah, we noted about improved documentation about all areas. Okay, do we have any more comments, questions? Okay, so we're going to run a short call for today. I think we're going to have another town hall with more chapters around metrics on the specific areas. I think we need to collect hotel or deep dive more on metrics processing. But if you have any suggestions, please go to the GitHub repository. I'm going to share my lesson again. So you can participate and say, you know what, for the next town hall, I would like to see this and I need it. Hey, let's use GitHub for that. I think that is the best way. You can use Slack, but also this repository will help us to prioritize or share specific content that you're really interested in. Okay, I appreciate, and my apologies again for messing up with the time zones, but I hope that this content and information has been useful for you.
Hey, Eduardo, there's one more question in the chat. I don't know if you want to save it for this one or if you want to grab it this time.
Can you do log to metrics but keeps the logs? Okay, that's a very interesting question, and let me tell you why. Because by default, the filter ships all the logs and generate the metrics. It does not drop the logs. And I was working in a special feature that is called discard logs, but I introduced some bug, and that's why you were not seeing the logs now. But let me show you how this works. Okay, this is live, right? So let's do it. Here's the source code of Fluent Bit. As you can see, I was working in this branch, but I'm going to switch.
I'm not sure if you're sharing your screen, Eduardo.
Oh, sorry.
There we go.
Okay, so this is Fluent Bit source code. I'm in the build directory, and as you can see, I'm in this branch that is called log to metric discard logs, because I wanted to discard the logs, but it's not yet finished. So I'm going to get back to master and going to compile it again. In the meanwhile here, it should be a log to metrics. So what we're going to do is to run again this log to metrics, and the logs should go to std out. Well, it should. Okay. So now if I run this again, there you go. So the logs is generated and also the metric at the same time. And you were seeing my development branch, which still has some bugs on it. But this is the default. Actually, it does not drop the logs. And if you wanted to drop the logs manually, you can use the grep processor after the log to metrics here. So you add a second one that is called grep, and you put all the rules to just exclude all the logs or just keep the ones that you care about. Okay, but good catch. But this is the default behavior. Okay, awesome. If there are no more questions, so I will give you some time back. And thanks again for attending.
Awesome. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.